My name is Sid West. I'm a grade 12 student. I'm 16 years old. I have photosensitive epilepsy. I love playing rugby, playing the guitar, stuff like that, spending time with my friends. And I recently went to the National Science Fair and I presented my project of glasses for prevention of photosensitive seizures. And yeah, I was diagnosed in around the beginning of my grade 9 year in high school. I was diagnosed with photosensitive epilepsy and then also FND, so non-epileptic seizures as well, caused by stress, not eating enough, not sleeping, all sorts of stuff like that. Yeah, but I actually was having seizures. I haven't had them since I was born. I developed it kind of grade 7, grade 8-ish, but I didn't actually get diagnosed until grade 9. First time I started having seizures was I worked at a summer camp, and kind of at night sometimes, like it was, sometimes summer camp can be a little stressful. So I would have episodes that I guess were absent seizures, but at the time, like I had never had a seizure before. So it just kind of looked like I was passing out, so people thought maybe I wasn't drinking enough or eating enough. So, we kind of just brushed that off. So that kept happening for a couple of months. And then I had my first really big seizure, and the cops came, the paramedics came. I have no recollection of it, but my mom just told me, like, you were making weird noises in your room, and I had no idea what was going on. And we couldn't wake you. So my dad called the ambulance, and none of the paramedics could wake me. No one could wake me up. So they were really confused on what was going on. And when they took me to the hospital, they were like, well, we don't really know what this is. They originally said, oh, maybe it was sleep paralysis, something like that. So after that, we kind of just brushed it off. But then it kept happening, these fainting episodes. So we thought maybe electrolyte issues or something like that. But then slowly at the start of my grade 9 year, they started to turn more into like shaking episodes or something that somebody would traditionally think of a seizure like. Of course, not all seizures present that way, but then mine started to present more something that would be more suspicious as a traditional seizure. So then we went to neurology, and they discovered, yes, I was triggered by flashing lights, and those showed like when I got my E known as epileptic, but then we figured out that ones that were caused by stress, stuff like that, was actually FND. My experience with epilepsy on a day-to-day basis, I would say, is definitely like unique as a high schooler. Things that I struggle with on a day-to-day basis that may be easier for other people my age are things like taking tests. So, before I had epilepsy, my grades, like I would say they were pretty good. I did well in school, and I still try my best in school, and I do as well as I can, but oftentimes I'll have seizures during tests, or I'll have seizures during class, and then I'll end up missing time in class and then not understanding the material, or even having a seizure having a seizure during a test. I've been told by teachers and stuff that I can't retake the test because I've already seen the material on the test. So I'll end up just having to take the grade for how many questions I've answered, which obviously is not like the best that I can do, and it's not actually showing my full capabilities. So sometimes, that makes me worried for applying to university, where it's like, is this really showcasing, the best that I can do, or is this showcasing the best I can do before I have a seizure? And I also think that it's kind of like scary and harder to make friends because, most people at my school know that I have seizures and epilepsy, because sometimes I'll have seizures in class and I'll just fall on the floor and start having a seizure. And obviously some teenagers aren't really nicest to sometimes. So obviously there's comments that come with that. And I have great friends who will always back me up, but definitely there can be a struggle with that, struggle with, being confident in yourself. But I think that definitely comes with time. And I think I've learned to accept it more. But I think especially in grade 9, when I first got diagnosed, I was already, struggling with trying to fit in at school as my first year, and then also having this another thing like, oh, you actually have these seizures now and everyone's going to see you in such a vulnerable state. I feel like that was hard for me because I didn't really know much about seizures before I even had epilepsy, so that was definitely hard for me. So I'm hoping to do engineering. I kind of got that from my science fair project. Before, I definitely struggled in STEM classes because obviously the tests, they're very test heavy, and tests were always hard for me with my seizures. But going to the science fair really showed me that like just because I'm limited in some ways doesn't mean I can't succeed if I want to do something. So even though, you know, STEM courses are very test heavy, like the science fair really showed me that I can still do all of that stuff. It's just I need to find ways to work around it. So I'm hoping to go to U of Ottawa, but yeah, I'm really open to anywhere. I'm very open about my epilepsy. You know, I'm the type of person, obviously this isn't spoken for everybody, but I'm the type of person who loves questions about seizures. So if somebody has a question, you know, when people first meet me, they'll be like, I want to ask a question, but I don't want it to seem rude to me. Like a question, if it's a genuine question, it's never rude. So I love it when people ask me questions like, what do I do if you have a seizure? What do your seizures look like? You know, stuff like that. So it's like they can educate themselves. I think that's so important. And I think the more that people educate themselves, the less scared they get about that kind of thing, you know, because I feel like people, the way they make jokes about things is just a way to, you know, hide their fear of that kind of thing. So I feel like the more people are educated, the less scared they are of that kind of thing. So I never personally think that a question is rude. So yeah, I love it when people ask me questions about that kind of thing. I will always be open to answer a question. And I think that like stigma is just important to educate, because a lot of the times people, when they make jokes about epilepsy or they make say something that is insensitive, you know, oftentimes they're just uneducated. And, you know, most people, if they are educated, they'll be like, yo, that actually makes a lot more sense. So yeah, that's how I deal with it. I actually haven't found a medication that has stopped my seizures or been able to stop my seizures. For a while, I was on a type of medication, but it didn't end up working. And I had a rescue medication as well, but I'm off my rescue medication now, as a lot of my seizures are FND, and it's kind of hard to differentiate between the epileptic ones and the non-epileptic ones. But I have FND seizures more frequently, and it's like if I'm around a strobe light, it's most likely an epileptic one. So I found that since the seizures caused by FND don't actually cause any damage to my brain, having this rescue medication that I would take, like delivered to me, that would just make me drowsy for the rest of the day, was not worth it for me personally, because I just felt like I couldn't do anything else. And especially being in school, say I had a seizure first period and it ends up being like a seizure that's non-epileptic, obviously I'll be tired for the rest of the day. But if I take that rescue medication, then it's like I just can't think for the rest of the day. So I stopped taking that because it wasn't worth it for me. But I love to see, you know, I have lots of friends with epilepsy, and I love to see how medication can make a difference in their life, especially like stopping people having seizures for years. So I think that kind of medication and people who rescue medication does really help. I think that's such a great tool, and I'm so happy we have that. I 100% think funding and research for epilepsy is so important. One thing that I found as a real struggle when I first got diagnosed was I found that unless I really looked for it, there was not really that much representation, education, stuff like that. I mean, like I will 100% own that before I had epilepsy, I knew nothing about epilepsy. I definitely had the same like preconceived idea of what a seizure looked like, that kind of thing, like that a lot of people have, because, you know, there's not a lot of representation, stuff like that. So like when I got diagnosed with epilepsy, when I started looking for things, like I found that I would have to like really look and stuff like that. But then once I would find something like Epilepsy Canada and stuff like that, like reading about how this can change people's lives. I mean, it's like, it's so amazing, like to think that just like somebody, you know, funding research or somebody doing their own research, like how, like there's such a huge population of people with epilepsy that like some people don't even honestly realize, like, you know, you probably met somebody with epilepsy, even if you don't think you have, you know, and it's like crazy that it's so under researched, that I think it's so important, because I think everyone should deserve to live a life that they feel comfortable in and that they feel, you know, like happy living in. So I love it when like I see funding for epilepsy, or I see people putting in research, because I just imagine like, you know, I imagine like kids being born with epilepsy, and, you know, obviously I got to experience things when I was a kid that maybe some people born with epilepsy wouldn't get to experience. And I just think of like how that research could help them. And I'm like, that is so amazing. My project is a pair of glasses that basically I took a pair of old 3D glasses from 3D TVs, and I used the liquid crystal display in there, and I used my own light detection circuit to find the actual like frequency of a strobe light, and then I put that into the code, and basically the glasses can detect a strobe light, and once it detects that strobe light, it'll darken the lens, causing like the trigger to be blocked, stopping the seizure. So when I first got diagnosed with epilepsy, one of the like photosensitive epilepsy specifically, one of the things that people would ask me the most was like people would always try and come up with solutions for me, and they would say, well, you can just wear sunglasses. That would totally work. You know, it's gonna. But people didn't understand that it was actually the frequency or the rate at which the light flashed that would actually trigger my seizure, not the brightness of the light. But it kind of, you know, got me thinking maybe I could make a pair of glasses that would actually stop me from receiving the frequency rather than like the brightness of the light, like a regular pair of sunglasses. Yeah. So currently right now, the lenses that I'm using, they work really well, and they're really easy to find because, you know, they're quite cheap, so that's great for the project. But they look almost like, at their standard state, they look almost more like sunglasses rather than like regular glasses. So I'm looking into other types of lenses that I can use, like potentially, like the windows that you can use where you can just like dim the windows, you know, stuff like that, where I'll look more like a pair of glasses. That would be more ideal for me. So I'm testing currently different types of lenses that I can use that'll make it look more like regular glasses and it's just normal state. And then also I need the PCB, so that kind of thing. I'm also hoping to add an on and off switch. So one that's like in case it doesn't work for some reason, just a fail-safe kind of technique there. And then currently right now it only one eye like actually darkens, but because that like will limit the signal that the brain will receive. But I'm hoping to have two modes. So, you know, my end goal is like, I am really interested in getting my driver's license because I'm around that age now, but I obviously can't drive with my seizures. But I would love for it to be, you know, having that one mode where the one eye is closed for driving, something like that, where you would have enough time where to pull over and then kind of stop yourself from having that seizure. But then also having a mode where two lenses will actually darken in case, say, you're at a concert or something like that, where you're like, okay, I just need 100% protection. You want both those lenses to darken. Something. I love singing and playing the guitar. I've been singing since I was really young, and I've done a musical in Halifax, and I've done a lot of musical theater throughout my life. And it's been really cool for me because singing is a good outlet for me. I feel like when I'm feeling stressed or having a bad day with seizures, stuff like that, it's something that I can go to, and I always know that I'll have, no matter, you know, how bad my seizures were that day, no matter what people are saying to me, stuff like that. I feel like it's something I'll always have there. Also, I play rugby, which is a really, really fun sport. I'm really enjoying playing it too because, you know, when I first joined, people were like, oh, are you sure you should be doing that with your seizures? Like when I joined the team at my school, people were like Sid, like, we don't want to be mean, but are you sure this is the right sport for you? Like you're getting hit, you're getting tackled, stuff like that. But my coach, I love him so much. He's amazing. And when I first joined the team, I was like, the first couple practices, I actually didn't tell him I had epilepsy. And then my friends were like, Sid, you should probably tell him. But I was so scared I was going to get kicked off this team, which is, you know, crazy that just because of a difference I have, I would get kicked off of something that everyone else gets to do. But, you know, it's a reality that could happen. So I sent him an email and I was like, hey, just so you know, I have this disability. I don't know if you know much about it. This is what it is. And I understand if I can't play anymore. And he just sent me this email back that basically said, you know, rugby is for everyone. It should be for everyone. I believe that it's for everyone. And something so great about rugby is that if I have a seizure on the field, since people get injured so often in rugby, we have so many subs, stuff like that. So anytime I have a seizure, like, it's not a big deal. The game keeps going. Nobody gets upset about it. And I get to play, you know, just as much as everyone else. So I love playing rugby. And I think that everyone with epilepsy, even if you feel like, sometimes I used to exclude myself from things because I had this, but I feel like if there's something you want to do, you should go out and try and do it, even if you don't think you'll be able to get it or it's new to you, you know what I mean? And that goes for everyone too, not just people with epilepsy. But yeah, those are kind of my main hobbies. And obviously I like doing stuff with circuits and coding. And yeah, that's all thanks to my dad. He's a huge supporter in my life. So I'm so lucky to have him and my mom and a great support system there.